Good evening. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Live. Welcome back to the studio. Viewers, welcome back to Real Men, Real Talk Live this evening. I am excited to introduce my co host. We have Avery Fletcher coming in. He is coming in from somewhere in the United States. I think it's Arizona. We have Kaimalu, who's coming in from Asheville, North Carolina in this moment. And we have Michaeloha coming back in from Hawaii for another episode on Real Men, Real Talk Live. As we wait for some of our viewers to join us this evening, for episode 185. I do want to note that Chris Morrison just landed back in the United States after spending a few days in the United Kingdom working on his passion project. He brought his children with him, and he is excited to be back home. Hopefully, he'll be back in the studio next week. But this evening, viewers, welcome back to episode 185. Tonight's episode is a really important one for all of us. The name of the show, the title is Your Rage in the Cage? And it's all about how we have, in some point in our lives, either been on the receiving end or the giving end of anger, of frustration, of rage. And how have we received it or how have we experienced it? And so this evening, we're going to dive into this topic. Viewers, if you should have any comments, questions, please drop it into the comments in the feed. And if you're inspired, we invite you to share it out with your friends and family. Kaimalu, right now you're here. You sound good. You look good, but you keep dropping out. We'll have to see what happens. If it continues, you may have to surrender, and we'll have you in spirit with us. We're just going to keep things going. But in any event, Avery, since you're in the top shelf here, I'm going to invite you to kick us off, get us out, light us up, and get this show going tonight on Is Your Rage in a Cage? What does this topic mean for you, and how have you learned how to navigate through living in rage in a cage? And have you cut yourself free of that?
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. Thank you for the warm introduction. It's good to be back for another episode. Yeah, rage in the cage, man. This is a topic for sure. You know, for me, I'm mostly seen as a very calm, cool, calm, collect person. I handle all conflicts with the most emotional intelligence as I can. But I've learned during a process in my life that I've evolved from is being a people pleaser, and one of those things about being a people pleaser is you kind of recess a lot of emotions, and some of those emotions can be anger based off someone pushing a boundary that you may have, or someone repeatedly showing you that they don't respect you, and having that emotion build up into anger, and then eventually unleashing it. But in my case, in the past, I've always kept it in the cage because I was afraid or fear the consequences that may have come from me unleashing that anger. But as I've grown and just really enjoying this journey that I've been going on, I've learned that there's healthy ways to express frustration or anger that you may have before it does become something that's volatile or dangerous, as far as like how anger is concerned. But it's been a great journey so far. Still learning day by day, but I think one thing that's really helping me is just expressing my emotions, expressing my when I may feel any sort of negative emotions towards someone as soon as possible, and handle it in a healthy way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Mike Aloha, what did you hear in that, and what do you make of that?
Mm. Well, I just want to share with you, I'm not in Hawaii today. I'm in Tecate, Mexico,
Okay.
um, and I'm ready. I'll be zooming back to Hawaii very soon. One thing I heard Avery say is negative emotions, and I've certainly for most of my life. Thought there were the negative emotions and the good emotions, and I got really good and was well trained at storing those negative ones away. And what I've come to embrace is that all of my feelings, all of the emotions are important and necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely have preferences of what I like to be experiencing, um, but to be able just to speak about them and be radically honest in the moment about those feelings creates a space free from danger, and a lot more fun. Just being instantly aware of what's going on, what the feeling is, and being able to speak about it as as this is how I feel, and not how you're making me feel. Not the changing the dial on the blame shame game, so it's not blaming, but taking responsibility fully for this is what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Gives everyone involved in the situation the same invitation and opportunity.
I want to share with you that I think all of us as men and women, we've either been on the giving or the receiving end of experiencing rage in a cage. And going even back to our childhoods, did we live in a home where one of our caretakers, our mother or father, um, was frustrated more times than not? And the easiest emotion to access is anger. And in that moment, it feels like it is the primary emotion, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's the easiest one for us to access. It's the easiest one for us to feel confident in expressing. But underneath the anger is what, in fact, is the primary emotion, which is usually sadness, frustration, feeling lonely, and all the other emotions that bring us down. I'm going to share an example, a story. This is my truth. It wasn't too long ago, a couple of years ago, I stormed out of the bedroom. I was angry. And I rented a billboard, meaning I made an announcement in my home. And the announcement was how angry I was at my ex. And the question came up is, what's happened? What's going on that you're so angry? And I was angry in that moment because I felt that there was some manipulation or alienation with the children. And I caught myself. I closed my eyes and I asked myself, what's underneath the anger? What am I really feeling? And then I spoke my truth. And my truth was, I'm sad. I miss my sons. I miss that relationship that I once had. And then I asked my beloved for a hug. Will you just hold me for a moment? And then I said, I think I need some time out in the wilderness for myself, by myself. I'll see you in a couple hours. And I just went out in nature to take care of my needs, to honor my feelings of sadness. Now, it doesn't mean that they went away. It doesn't mean that it changed anything. But what it did was it gave me a sense of calm. It gave me a sense of peace within, because what I've learned is there are things I have control over, and there are things that I have no control over. And what I have no control over is how other people receive me, how other people speak about me. I only have control over how I show up. So part of this healing journey, my friends, is about taking accountability, but also acceptance and trusting that right now it may not be where I would like it to be. But I'm not going to allow it to take me hostage anymore. I live in acceptance today. I live in trust today. Yes, when I think about it, I am sad. But it's not going to define my life today. It's not going to define how I show up. It's not going to define how I show up in rage because I'm angry and pissed off and can easily slip into that victimhood mentality. Nope. I'm not going to allow anything or anybody take my power away from me today. That's something for me to own. That's something for me to control. And the last thing I want to do is create a space of discomfort for anyone that's in my presence. What are you making of what I'm putting down here, Avery? What are you hearing?
A lot of good stuff, Jay. And two things, or actually two things that you kind of touched on that really hit the heart as far as feeling that same emotion. One is dealing with that uncontrolled anger from parents and how that is the quickest emotion that most parents show when they are frustrated or sad or disappointed. My mother was one of those. She showed her emotions towards me mostly through anger, which of course underlining under that emotion was, maybe she's upset or frustrated for something I may have done, especially as kids, kids, we get into a lot of things. We destroy the houses, we write on walls, things like that. And that can cause emotions for parents, right? I mean, even for me on my own journey, I'm learning how to best control, not necessarily control, because I don't think I'm controlling anything in my emotions. I'm letting my emotions feel as they are. But what I'm making sure that I'm doing with my daughter is that I don't let that overlaying anger emotion take over what the emotions I'm feeling inside, and then being able to, communicate as best as I can with my daughter to show that, hey, she may have made a mistake, but to know that I can express my emotions in a way to her that, like, daddy's upset, but it's okay because this is life. It happens. Versus with my mother, in the simplest mistakes, it doesn't matter what it was, from small or big, her first way to externally show her emotions towards me was anger, whether that and she showed that anger through multiple outlets, both mentally, physically, spiritually, but it's because of those underlying emotions that she had. And of course, once the anger reside, then she would, tell me why she did what she did. But of course, the damage has been done, expressing that emotion towards me. And then the other one, Jay, that you were talking about that kind of hit was even during relationships, right? There have been times in my relationship, especially my with my mother and my daughter, where because of so many things kept happening between us, I got so angry where, like, I would just walk out. I walk out in anger. I would walk out in these emotions that seem uncontrollable, when inside what I was really feeling was just loneliness, not feeling seen or heard. But because it just kept building, it turned to other emotions. And I think it's still things I'm learning to not only heal from as far as my childhood, but I definitely take accountability for it. And then also, as far as my emotions and relationship, is something that I'm constantly always checking with myself and having those check-ins to make sure that nothing is building inside me where it may lead for an uncontrollable rage or an uncontrollable anger that hides what I'm really feeling about the relationship, you know. But that's what I heard, Jay. So it hit me and touched me. So I was like, I gotta share share my people too.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think it's okay sometimes just to have a moment
Mm-hmm.
for us to receive it, for us to hear it, not here, but feel it here.
Mm-hmm.
Michaeloha, I'm curious, man. Have you ever experienced receiving or giving what's called blackout rage, where there's no recall? It's almost as though you've been passed out. You're not awake. Have you experienced that? And what have you learned? If so, what have you learned about yourself? What do you know about yourself today from that experience?
I've definitely been on the gifting of rage, the sharing of rage. I don't know that it's a gift, except in the greatest levels of trust. But I have received blackout rage, and yeah, at first I couldn't recall that, but then yeah, uh, there was a dear beloved who really liked her alcohol, and she would go into this rageful, angry place. And I think as a child, I think I experienced blackout rage. It was very, very scary, very confusing. Um, yeah, yeah, I think so. Um, and my experience, my knowing about it is that it's this buildup of unsatisfaction, dissatisfaction, unsatiation with life, with choices made, fear, frustration. It's a whole emotional baklava, layers and layers of emotions that gets repressed and stored. When you were saying that anger is the easiest to access and express, um, I think for many it's not because there's a confusion that anger equals violence, and so if we don't want to hurt anyone, but we feel this energy, so it gets repressed because we think, oh, if I let this feeling out, it's going to chop people's heads off, it's going to hurt somebody, myself or others. So I know I got really, really good at storing it away in my body until it was actually quite crippling at one point in my life. And I just had this confusion, this belief that anger equaled violence, and that they were the same thing. And when I learned that anger is anger and violence is violence, and they're different things, and one can be expressed before the other explodes, it was so liberating and profoundly healing. What felt like a miraculous moment doing meridian tapping and noticing how I had stored anger in my herniated disc that I was scheduled for surgery for. So I really just want to reiterate, anger is anger. When we feel angry, that's when our boundaries are being crossed, or we imagine or perceive that our boundaries are being crossed. And so the resulting feeling is anger. We feel anger that our boundaries are being crossed. And many times that occurs before we even have the word no, before we have any words to even say, stop doing that, that's not okay, or no. That I invite everyone just to kind of spiral back through time space and see if you can recall what's the initial boundary crossing that you had. And maybe it's not the first time it happened, but what is the first time that you recall having your boundaries crossed, and what's the feeling there? And just being able to feel the feeling, maybe tap over your precious heart while you feel that feeling, and embrace yourself as being okay that you had that feeling then, and that you can still feel the charge there. And it's so liberating to know that anger is anger, and that I don't have to hold it in. I can just say, I feel angry, just like that. I feel angry. There it is. I spoke the truth immediately and expressed it, and it doesn't get stored away, stored away, stored away until I'm hurting, and then I come out. When someone presses that little button, I come out as explosive and violent and hurt myself and others. Which at one point I was really good at that. sad to think about, and I'm so grateful for the unwinding of the wound, unraveling of the confusion and the belief, and hopefully of all belief. And
And so, go
I think that
ahead.
belief in itself is leading us towards acts of violence.
I'm curious, as a man who's gained some more wisdom lines as you continue to age and hopefully prosper in a healthier way, how do you manage those moments when you feel triggered? Do you allow it to bottle up? Are you repressing it to where today you still have those mini explosions, or are you able to? Have you learned how to navigate through the triggers or the anger in a different way to manage it so that it doesn't come out in a harmful way that leaves us feeling shame and guilt
Mm.
on the aftermath of trying to pick up the pieces after we've hurt or said harmful things to someone we may care about.
Mhm.
I guess those lines are on me. You're speaking to me, asking me.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit more about that. This is so important in my existence, in my life, to share with people and to sit with people while they get a little sample, a little emotional homeopathy. My only um, fear of emotion is the unexpressed emotion. So I'll sit with someone and let them feel that rage. And I sat with
Hold on
people.
1 second. I want you to repeat that. My only fear
Hmm.
is a fear of the unexpressed emotion. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, yes. Because the one that gets stored away is the one that's going to come out later as violence. The one that's unrealized, unexpressed, repressed, resisted. Um, yeah. So when I hear someone say, I've even said, "Yay, thank you for saying that." After someone has said to me, "I feel angry," I'm like, "Yay, thank you. I thought you felt angry. I felt angry too. I thought you felt angry when you were throwing that microphone stand across the stage. Thanks for sharing it. I so appreciate the radical, instant honesty of I feel angry. It's just like that. Wow, I feel so angry. Wow, what do you need? If you see a little child in the grocery store and they're kicking and screaming on the floor, and if mama comes up and says, stop that crying, you're embarrassing me, she thinks she's going to look bad to other parents. She's like, stop that screaming. If the baby stops screaming, it's not because they're suddenly joyous. Or if daddy says, I'll give you something to scream about and pulls his fist back, it's not because all of a sudden the happiness enters if this crying stops. It's out of fear that it's not okay to be angry. It's not okay. But if you go to that little baby, and I do often, even though it's not my child, but I go up to children when I see them on the airplanes or on the grocery store floor. I'll go up and I see this rage happening, and I'll just go up and say, "What do you need?" And they look up, and it's amazing. I mean, just the other day, I had this really really fun experience where um, we were in the paint department, and this little boy was picking all of the samples out, and mom was like just freaking out that she was picking that he was picking all these samples out, and mom was starting to go into the rage place, and the boy was just excited about all the colors. So I just engaged him, and I pulled out another color, and I was like, "Look at this one, look at that one. That's cool, huh?" And he was just so excited that I just was being with him, being present with his excitement. And I said, I'm going to put it back in there. And I think he went and took it out. But it kind of diffused the whole thing.
Yeah,
And
I want to jump
wonderful.
on that piece right there. It is about diffusing the whole thing.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that, I'm going to paraphrase and I'm going to interpret what I just heard you say. When we, as an adult self, at whatever chronological age that we are as the adult, when we flip the switch and we get angry and we just want to unleash, There's a new way to show up. And the new way to show up is take accountability. Own your own emotions and feelings, meaning before you step into that cesspool to just kind of flame and create this massive firestorm, catch yourself. Put yourself in a timeout, meaning walk out of that room, walk out of that environment, get out of your head, get out of your house, step outside. And the first thing to do is do a check-in with yourself. Take one of your own vitals. Ask this question: how old am I feeling emotionally right now? Most likely, you will not land on the age that you are. You will land on a much younger age. It may be 7, it may be 17, or anything in between. Then you have that opportunity to parent that out of control teenager or little boy that's having a temper tantrum because he's not getting the ice cream when he wants it.
And love them up.
Yes. Yeah. Let me say this to you. Look,
okay that you feel hurt. It's okay.
I myself wasn't always I didn't always show up in a healthy way. I didn't know how. I wasn't healthy. But since I embraced, since 2015, a new way to live, a new way to love, a new way to express the true essence of my feelings and emotions, I have no recall unless I've been in a blackout for almost 9 years where I've gotten into an angry disagreement or a fight with my partner, Mary. I just haven't had to go there. First and foremost, because I've learned how to regulate and manage my own emotions as a man, how to regulate and manage my own emotions as at times that sad little boy, LJ, little J. And when I'm not able to do that, I tap into compassion for my partner. I just look at her and I could see it on her face, or I could feel it. And the last thing I ever want to do is hurt her or hurt that precious little girl that's still within her. That is how we heal relationships, my friends. That rage, so much of it, that anger, is not even ours. We've inherited it from our fathers, from our mothers, from our grandparents. We have an opportunity to cut the cord, break the chain for our own children, for our grandchildren, by how we show up today. And that is the greatest gift that I've given to myself, but also to people that I care most about in my life. I had the opportunity to spend hours after I got off the land session with a client this morning. I spent the afternoon with a 5-year-old, a beautiful young boy. I got on his level today. I held him. I played with him. I provided a safe environment for him. And there was one moment where I saw him starting to feel sadness. And in that moment, I showed up for him. I just held him. And I told him how much I loved him. And like that, he was back. I didn't get this message, but I received it secondhand that when he was dropped off at home, he said to his mommy, "This is one of the best, if not best day of my life today." It's because how we show up for our youth. We have an opportunity and an obligation as men that are healing to provide that safe environment for our children, all of our children. Avery, what's coming up for you, man? Talk to me, brother.
Oof, a lot. But two things that both Jay, you said, and Michaeloha that really struck with me. One of them, and Michaeloha, I love the story about you and a little boy and pulling the paint cards and kind of just embracing his method of exploring, right? But one thing you said, Michaeloha, is being present, right? And then something you said, Jay, was showing compassion for that person. And one thing that, I'm constantly learning as a parent, with my daughter, who's, a beautiful 2-year-old, is having to, one, heal from my own trauma as far as how my mom parented me, and how if Aspen is having a meltdown or she's angry, whatever, there's I have to check in, like you said, I have to check in myself really quick, because the first thing that pops up is what would my mom do? Oh, my mom would be angry. She would yell. She'd say, "Stop doing this, stop doing that." And like you said, is that creates fear. And the reason why I know that creates fear is because that's the fear I hold inside because of my own mom and how she would make me stop or threaten me, or give me something to cry about because I'm showing emotions, whether because I'm disappointed, sad, whatever the case may be. And one thing that I'm not only teaching myself, but trying to show up for my daughter is that even if she is sad, if she's angry at me, for me telling her, say, no, you can't have that, you can't have candy. And she immediately feels that anger, the crying, the stuff. I don't immediately say, stop doing that, stop doing that. What I do is at first I check in with myself, and then I show compassion, like, well, I just told her no. So of course she's going to be upset at me, right? Doesn't mean she can have what she wants, but she's allowed to feel that emotion that I basically told her that she cannot have what she wants. And one thing that I've done, and because of learning the fact that when I grew up, if I was told no and I would cry, and then my mom would say, stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about, what I do is I go down on my knee, I go down to her level, and I don't say anything first. I just go down to her level. I open my arms up and I wait for her to feel like she's ready to be embraced, to let her know that, hey, look, you're feeling this emotion, but hey, I'm right here. When you're ready, I can give you that hug, process it through it. Let's have the safe space together. And you know what happens 9 times out of 10, Jay? That temper tantrum that's supposed to last, 35 minutes that parents say, literally lasts for a couple of minutes, 5 minutes tops. She went through the emotions. I check on her. It's like, are you okay? And I don't push. I say, are you okay? Yes. She confirms that for me. We let go. She gives me a smile, and she continues on her day.
Real quick, Avery, real quick. I'm going to interrupt you because I've got to put this out there.
Go for it.
Can you adopt me, man?
Listen,
seriously, I want you to raise me today. I want you to get down at my eye level,
yeah,
and help that boy heal.
Look, the mother of my daughter has even asked me that she wants me to raise her. I'm like, listen.
Wow.
Yay! Thank you.
Wow. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to put that out there because wow, I'd love for you to be the daddy of my little boy within me. In those moments when you show up that way for that precious little angel of yours, that little girl.
Yeah.
All of her needs are met, man.
That's all I want to give her. Like, I don't ever want her to feel afraid of me. I don't ever want her to feel afraid to express herself. That fear that I had growing up because of my mom, strain kept me caged from a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish in my life because I was so fearful of expressing myself. And that's why I became a people pleaser, right? I had to be like, okay, I can't show anger. I can't show sadness. I can't show this. I can't show that, because people will, you know, not accept me, or I won't be that good person. And, you know, it took a lot of soul searching and going inwards to understand where a lot of that sadness and anger came from, so that way I can make sure that when I'm raising my daughter, she does not feel those feel those things because if they've been pushed upon her. I want her to allow her to feel whatever emotion she's feeling and let her just go through it and know that it's going to be okay. Even to the perfect story that Michaeloha was talking about with the little boy and him playing with the paint, the little paint cards. That hit me too, because my daughter, she may go around the house and maybe throw things, whatever, and wreck, or build her Legos and toss things. And instead of being immediately upset or angry, I just sit there with her and start playing with her and start kind of teaching her things with it, and maybe just having fun with her. And then when we're done, I'll just be like, all right, let's clean up. How about we clean this up? How about we put this back where we found it? This is a cool card, right? Where did we get this? Let's put it back. And the immediate response that I get from her is she wants to put it back. Like, okay, cool, I explored it. This is awesome. Okay, Daddy said I'll put it back. And never once do I show anger or emotions like, oh my God, why did you do that? Like, I just cleaned this. Instead, I just embrace her madness and then teach her how to regulate it, how to clean up, how to just put things back where they were, and then continue on to the next thing that she wants to do around the
I'm
house.
curious, Avery.
Mhm.
What has that little girl taught you? What is she teaching you?
She's teaching me how to heal my inner boy. She's teaching me to love myself and to express myself. Because of that little girl, I've set boundaries in my life that I'd never set before. Because of that little girl, I've become more of who I really am. Because when I'm teaching her and seeing how she's processing her emotions, how she's just exploring this life, it's showing me like, wait a minute, I can do that too, right? I can express emotions, and I can set boundaries. I can feel things. I can explore. I can do so many things. So seeing that in her eye has awakened my inner child to do the same, and it's such a beautiful just cycle,
Well, you've heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it one more time. Welcome home.
Thank you.
What you just described there is the gift of coming home. That child of yours has provided a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
As a 2-year-old, the wisdom that she has been able to share and express with you has provided you the ultimate gift of coming home to your true, authentic self. It's a new way to live. It's a new way to love. How do you feel right now, brother? You got a lot of emotions coming through. What's coming up for you? What do you think's at the bottom of this?
I think mostly it's just honestly it's happiness. The happiness is the fact that I'm seeing the work that I'm doing as far as raising my daughter, and fixing that broken little boy. It's just the reminder to myself that, like, I'm doing it. It's working. I'm healing. It's a journey, and just speaking about this, speaking it out loud, because of course it's in my head. It's automated, right? It's just,
Yeah.
I'm just doing it. But to hear me speak it, brings me joy. The fact that, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm doing that. I'm doing that for my daughter. I'm doing that for myself, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to hear it.
Yes. When we finally have the courage to speak our truth and honor our truth, we heal. We heal ourselves. We heal our families. we can even heal people outside of our families. We become the example just through the energetic exchange. I want to thank you for your brutal honesty tonight, Avery. We did miss you last week. It's good to have you back.
Good.
Kaimalu, unfortunately, was not able to secure a stable Wi Fi this evening, so hopefully he'll be back next week. We are missing you, but in this moment, Mike, aloha. I want to switch gears right now, and I want to ask you, I'm going to put you in a hot seat. I don't want to ask you this question. How has anger influenced your relationship with self-esteem and or self-confidence? Has it, well, I'll let you answer that. I'll repeat the question.
Well, yeah, okay.
How has anger and your relationship with anger in your past and in the present impacted your self-esteem and self-confidence?
Well, I kind of want to start out with first, I was a zygote, and then like we were in our grandmother's wombs as eggs in our mama. When our mom was being born out of our grandmas, we were in there as eggs. So whatever our grandmas were going through in this fractal universe that we're in, we were sitting in that. We were in that. All the fear, all the anger, all the rage, feeling supported, feeling unsupported. So I think my experience when I first popped out was somewhat like, what am I doing here on this planet? I don't think I'm in the right place. And and anger was not celebrated. It was not certainly not celebrated to say, "Hey, mom, dad, I feel angry." That was not cool. Um, so I think it was a there was no I don't think I know an experience. There was huge amounts of confusion, frustration. Oh, I felt so frustrated, and then I was going into the public school. Just felt more like a prison to me. I just wanted to be free and do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. So yeah, the anger, um, yeah, was kind of crippling in a way, debilitating. Um, I didn't feel free. I didn't feel confident, uh, and I felt angry. I look back now and realize, wow, that was yeah. I was just angry. I was not excited about what was happening most of the time. Thank goodness for music. Um, but then, I remember our neighbors sent us to vacation Bible school, and it felt like vacation Bible prison. I just remember thinking, that sounds like a good idea. That sounds okay. That sounds really weird. I just remember thinking, this is really weird, the things that we're being told here. And so lots of weird confusion, um, yeah, lack of confidence. Moving forward decades later, yeah, it caused a lot of chaos in my life. Not good enough. Like something was wrong, terribly wrong with me because I had these powerful feelings. And then what I realized and what I've come to know is that just being able to celebrate the full spectrum of emotions, the chromatic scale of emotions, all the colors of emotions, and just being able to really feel what's the sensation, even before it becomes anger or sadness or grief, before it's undefinable. What's the feeling in my body? And being able to slow down enough to feel and to create my life in a way that I gift myself that time. I gift myself that space. And what I've come to learn is that the choices that I'm making are affecting everyone in all of my relations, and it's affecting all of my feelings. So if I find myself constantly, or even just occasionally, feeling anger or frustration with my colleagues making music, or um, with my neighbor or with my beloved or with the cats or the ducks or whatever it is. In any of my relations, if I'm feeling these less than joyous feelings, I really get to look at what am I doing with this one precious life. And you reminded us earlier that's like it's so much about choice. It is all about choice. And so if I'm this if when I was this unsatisfied, this unsatiated with my needs and my wants in life, yeah, it was not fun to be around me. And so I'm grateful that I'm allowing myself to feel the feelings, and that's my guidance system. That's really helps me dance through the world as a guy, and that helps me to know I need to make an adjustment. I took a job during the COVID time. A friend of mine was going to retire, and he had one more year to teach. And he said, "I just can't do it with the mask and everything going in to the school and do it." He looked at me and goes, "But you're the guy." And I'm like, "Me?" I said, "I don't think so." He said, "Yeah, you're the guy." And I thought, wow, it's a great opportunity. I was so excited. I was going to go in and light this place on fire and just make it this amazing program. And I just felt so frustrated. And I experienced it. Like my boundaries were being crossed a lot, like every day. Just, yeah. And I realized that ultimately I was like, well, I chose this. I'm the one that said yes. I'm the one that's responsible for this. And I'm the one that I had an idea of what it was going to look like. I just need to slow way down and choose again. And I just realized that's not what I want to be doing at this point in my life. I want to be feeding people that are hungry. I don't want to be shoving food down people's throats. That's not fun at all. And so I realized that ultimately, by continuing to do that, I was crossing my own boundaries, and to stay in that position, I would be crossing my own boundaries. And because doing the blame shame game, that's just
Yep.
that's unhealthy. That's not what's happening. I'm the one who chooses. So you know,
Beautiful.
making healthy choices and doing what we want to do with this life. And if any of us or anybody out there in out there land is feeling, constant frustration and unsatiation, make a big choice, make a big change, make an immediate change. And that can be really spooky sometimes.
Beautiful.
But it's a lot
There
more
you
fun for everyone eventually.
go. Thank you for sharing that, Michaeloha.
Mhm.
Avery, I want to
Absolutely.
switch gears right now, and I want to put you in a hot seat for a moment and ask you this: what is the relationship between anger and anxiety?
Mm. What is the relationship between anger and anxiety?
In your own experience?
Yeah, but I'd say personally, for me, where anxiety kicks in, as far as if I'm feeling angry, is the fear or the anxiety of the consequences that may happen afterwards of expressing said anger or said emotion. Um, I oh, I can I can't even count with both of my hands the amount of times where I may have felt, angry about something and would love. I felt like if I had talked about it, that I'll feel so much better. But because I didn't, because the anxiety of what the response may be always stopped me from expressing that anger. I was like, okay, if I express this anger, how will they receive this? Will they accept the fact, like, okay, he's angry, what can I do to resolve this? Or are they going to come and maybe either match my energy or even increase the energy towards a more negative way, where now we're battling each other over anger, where it's like, I'm angry, it's like, you're angry when I'm angry now because you're angry, and it's now my emotions of whatever was the underlying issue is no longer being in play, and now we're just constantly battling each other and nothing's being resolved because we're both trying to battle our anger over each other, who's more angry than the other. And so because of those initial thoughts in my head, that causes the anxiety for me to like just to stop, because whenever I may feel that anger towards the person I'm angry at, I never felt safe enough to feel like I can express that without it turning into something that becomes much worse, that doesn't resolve anything, or could end up where I'm now out of control of my own emotions, where now I no longer, not feeling just angry, but just feeling everything. And now I'm in a state where I may black out, but not in a sense where now I'm feeling physical, but just to the point where like I'm so overwhelmed in emotions that now I can't even think. I can't even be present. I can't even exist. And, at that point, nothing can help me resolve that. Not walking outside, not going to nature. And that's always been my biggest fear and my biggest anxiety is I never want to be in a place where if I'm expressing myself in that way, will I have that space to receive that anger and talk through it? Or is it going to be a space of hostility? And I don't want hostility because I feel like I cannot come back. I can't, I'm sorry, getting overwhelmed.
So how do you juggle that relationship today? Where are you at with that?
So with today, and honestly, this is definitely also, being harsh on my truth and being honest. I've been practicing that with the mother of my daughter, with the whole co-parenting that we're doing. Um, in the beginning, it was a battle. We were both angry. We both broken up, which was both understandable. But only one of us would take accountability in that. And whenever we would try to express ourselves, as far as why we may be upset about whatever happened, it turned into a fighting. It turned into a name calling fest. It turned into a berating, belittling. It turned into just a space that was hostile. But today, even at the moments where I may feel anger towards her based off maybe certain actions that are happening with our daughter, one way I've learned to navigate through that is to just, instead of being anxious and having anxiety of what the response may be, taking accountability in myself to not let her get me to that place. So to express my anger, express my emotions, and to know that whatever the response may be, allow it myself to check in myself to make sure that whatever that response is not going to take me out of where I'm feeling. It's not going to, it's not going to destroy my character. It's not going to take me to the place of a back and forth anger. So if I'm saying, hey, I feel angry about this, and the response is, well, that's, you shouldn't feel angry about that, or that's too bad, or I feel, or she may turn around and try to gaslight me or flip it on me. What I've learned to do was just take a step back, breathe, and actually go and walk away if I need to. So don't even allow myself to get to the point where I'm not out of control. If I express my anger and it's not received, I take a deep breath and I walk away. And I'm like, okay, this wasn't the space for me to express that anger and receive it in a way where we can talk through it. But I'm not going to allow her or anybody to increase that anger or to increase that uncontrollable rage that will then start to build because I'm not being heard. I just allow myself to, all right, I got to walk away. And I've been practicing that with her. And it's been beautiful because I will express anger sometimes. Sometimes it is received very well because she's also doing the work, which I am very proud of her. She's started taking more accountability. So we're able to have those really tough conversations. But there are still times when we can't, and I may express myself and she does not receive it very well. And so one thing I do is check in with myself, but then also show compassion. As you said, Josh, show compassion to her. If I tell her that I'm angry about something and her response isn't, in a very positive way, or it may come off as very attacking or hostile, then I take a step back and say like, hey, listen, I didn't say this because I wanted you to feel attacked or feel this way. I said this because yada, yada, yada. And I check my tone. I check where I'm at to make sure that it's a safe space for both of us. And I've learned even from those moments, I was able to bring what could have been a 10, back down to a 1 or a 2. After I said what I said and I can see it climbing, I say the things like, hey, wait a minute. First, let's check in really quick. This is why I said that. Let's bring it down. And I can just constantly see that coming right back down, where then we can now have a conversation and I can express like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And then she can express as well, hey, this is why I responded the way I did, which has been beautiful, because then I learned how to communicate better, because we all want to be communicated differently. And maybe how I expressed that, she didn't appreciate that. So then I learned like, okay, why did that make you react the way it did? And how do we fix this so that when I express myself again, we don't go to 10, we go right here.
Beautiful. I love that. And what I want to share with, we got about 4.5 minutes left to the hour. I want to take this time to just give each one of us a couple of minutes just to kind of put a pretty bow in a show and call it a wrap, and really look at really understanding what's underneath the anger. But most of the time, it's our own wounding, core wounding from our younger years. And what we're angry about is that we feel frustrated because we're not being seen, understood, or heard. That's my experience, at least. And when we're able to change our own language, our words spoken to that individual, wow. When we're able to truly explain what we're feeling, underneath the anger is, I'm not being seen, I'm not being understood, I'm not being heard. Those are just a few examples. So it really is less about them, and it's more about us. It's us being able to put ourselves in somewhat of a timeout, step away, get out of your head, get out of your house, get outside, go for a walk, do something where you're able to really connect with what the emotion is that you're feeling under the anger. And then hold that space for yourself, either nurturing yourself or expressing to that individual what it is that you're truly feeling. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling not heard or understood. And then express why that is. And then it's up to them to acknowledge you or not. But in those moments, you could hold that space for yourself. And that space to hold for yourself, most likely, is it's your younger self that's carrying that wound or that sadness. So, Mike, aloha. Closing thoughts, closing words for our evening's talk show this evening.
Yeah, thank you. I celebrate all of our feelings, and especially the ones that I thought were scary or not okay. That's where the gold is. That's where the yumminess is. Um, I celebrate going out into the woods, going out on the seashore by the ocean, standing on a cliff somewhere, feeling it, making huge sounds out into the sky instead of into someone's face, going out and making big, big sounds. I celebrate crying really, really, really hard, healthy crying where you're breathing and tears are coming, and just feel the grief. It's okay that we feel scared. It's okay that we're sad. We grieve because we love life so much. We're afraid because we think there's not enough of what. But the anger is really, it's not towards them, it's towards ourselves. So we have the choice at every moment of every day when we start to feel something that's less than joyous or fun, when we start to feel that charge, we have the choice to reset, to slow down, breathe, to pause, celebrate the pause, and say, what is this about? What do I need? Where am I crossing my own boundaries? And even what's the blessing of this? What's the blessing of this? Because this anger towards myself is not fun. And
Beautiful.
being able to make that distinction that it's not, I feel angry. It's not anyone else's fault. Even even if my boundaries were crossed at some point, I have the choice now in the present moment to make a choice and choose joyousness, firing.
How is it changing your life?
It's so much more fun. Oh, it's so much more fun. Much more fun, and a lot less pain. And I get to show up to others in the joy of service. Get to do things like this and show up to fun invitations and help friends that need help. Support friends, and I get to receive and gift, and so much more fun. Yeah, just
Beautiful.
being real. Saying, "Wow, I feel really angry. What's this about?" Wow. Oh, and it's amazing how sometimes I think it's about what's happening here. Like you said, no, wow, this is just kind of triggering. This reminds me of when I was 17 or when I was 11 or when I was 5 and that thing happened. And just really going in and saying, even though I feel so angry and I felt so angry, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself in this moment. And then doing it and breathing it in as deep as I'm ready to. And I'm ready.
Welcome home, Michaeloha.
Mahalo. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you, Avery. It's such a reverent joy to be in your presence. Thank you.
Avery, I want to invite you to give us 1 minute, closing thoughts, words of wisdom from your journey of coming home to
Huh.
become to evolve into the loving man that you will have and continue to evolve into.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep it short and simple. For me and in my journey, my biggest thing is how I communicate my emotions, how I express those emotions when I am talking to other people. Um, Not allowing the rage, not allowing the anger, not allowing any emotion be caged just because of anxiety or fear of what may come from that result. Um, I've learned that just being able to communicate my emotions, whatever it may be, and accepting what the result may be from it, has opened up my heart to feel more like my inner child because I'm allowing my real self to be expressed in any situation. And the beautiful thing about this journey as well is not only am I learning how to communicate my emotions effectively, but I'm learning, I'm also learning more compassion and empathy than I already had. I feel like I'm learning real compassion and empathy instead of people pleasing compassion and empathy. Because when I'm expressing my emotions, I'm not only just thinking about myself, I'm thinking about the other person too, how my emotions may affect this other person, and finding a way for us to both create a safe space to talk through those emotions. And that's been a beautiful journey and I'm loving it.
Wow. Hmm. My closing words are this: we always have a choice. We can continue to rage. We can continue to hold on to anger in some or all of our relationships. We will never experience the true essence of peace within, freedom within. When we finally have the courage to show up and grow up for that angry little child within you and learn how to nurture, how to nourish, how to hold, how to comfort that wounded child that wasn't seen or wasn't heard or was belittled or was compared to, that wasn't enough. We no longer have to live in a cage of rage. We can set ourselves free. I only know it's possible because it was a choice, it was a path I took towards the end of 2015. And through that journey, I released a lot of pain. I released a lot of anger. And today, I'm a free man. I experience more days, more moments living in love than in pain that came from the cage, that came from anger. So it's time for all of us to set ourselves free. It's time to embrace this truth. Most of our anger that we've been carrying goes all the way back. It's time to set that boy or girl free so we can learn how to play, so we can learn how to have fun, so we can learn how to celebrate, how to honor, how to connect with ourselves and with others that are important in our life. Viewers, I want to take a moment here to thank each one of you for joining us this evening. If you heard something you like to love, please share it with a friend or family member in your community. We appreciate you coming up and showing up tonight. And with that, gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening for episode 185. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week on Real Men, Real Talk. Live!